This deep dive is going to be tough, guys.
Mm-hmm.
We're dealing with a really sensitive topic today.
Yeah.
And we want to approach it carefully. We're looking at the case of a South Carolina teenager who tragically died by suicide.
Right.
Allegedly, this was after being caught up in a sextortion scheme.
Yeah.
And the person allegedly behind this was a Nigerian man.
Okay.
Who has recently been extradited to the U.S. to face charges. So we're going to unpack the details of this case, but we're also going to broaden it out.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about sextortion in general, you know, what it is, how it works, and why it's so dangerous.
Absolutely. And it's a topic that, especially for young people, given how much of their lives are online these days, it's a really important one.
For sure. So let's start with the case itself. I mean, this case has been in the headlines. People might be familiar with it.
Right.
But what are the sort of key details? What stands out to you about it?
Yeah, well, I think one of the most striking things about this case is just how global it is. The fact that authorities went to the lengths of extraditing this suspect from Nigeria really kind of highlights, the seriousness of the charges, but also just the lengths that, law enforcement is willing to go to combat this.
Right.
It really, also just goes to show that, in the digital age, perpetrators can be anywhere.
Yeah.
And, it can be very, very difficult to track them down.
Yeah, it really highlights, I think, for a lot of people, something we talk about all the time, but it's easy to forget, right? That online interactions, no matter how private they feel, can have real-world consequences that are very, very serious and extend way beyond just our immediate surroundings.
Yeah.
But before we get too far, let's step back.
Sure.
What exactly is sextortion? How does it work? I mean, paint a picture for us here.
Yeah. So sextortion is a type of blackmail where somebody threatens to share private images or videos of you, often explicit ones.
Gotcha.
Unless you meet their demands. So these demands could include sending more explicit content, paying money, or even performing certain actions. Often they will threaten to share these images or videos with your family, your friends, or even post them publicly online.
It's really scary stuff. We always talk about being careful about sharing personal information online.
Right.
But how do these perpetrators actually get these images?
Well, it often starts very subtly. They will create fake profiles pretending to be someone they're not.
Okay.
Often, someone your age or someone with shared interests. The whole goal is to kind of build rapport and gain your trust. They might, flatter you or shower you with attention or even pretend to be in love with you.
Right.
And then once they've, really kind of established this connection, they might start by asking for innocent photos. But then very slowly, they'll escalate to asking for more explicit ones.
It's almost like that grooming behavior you hear about, cases of physical abuse and things like that.
Absolutely.
It's really insidious.
Yeah. And I think, what makes it even more difficult is that they will often document every interaction, every photo, every message, anything that can be used as leverage later.
Wow.
They prey on insecurities, the fear of exposure, shame, Just imagine if you're a teenager, you've shared something that you regret. The thought of your parents or your classmates finding out is absolutely paralyzing.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, the fear, the panic, that's exactly what the perpetrator is hoping for.
So they're not just tech savvy, they're like master manipulators.
Absolutely.
Makes you want to just ditch social media entirely. But, realistically, people can't just disconnect entirely from the internet.
Right.
So what can we do?
Yeah.
What can people do to protect themselves and, I think more importantly, to protect their kids?
Well, I think awareness is key. It's so important to talk to your kids about the dangers of sharing personal information online.
Right.
Let them know that, people aren't always who they claim to be online.
Yeah.
Teach them to recognize red flags, like, someone asking for personal information too quickly or pressuring them to share photos they're uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
And most importantly, I think reassure them that they can come to you if anything feels wrong, no matter what.
Yeah, I think that's so key. It's all about communication and really building that trust so that, kids know that they can come to their parents.
Absolutely.
Without judgment if something's going on.
Right.
Are there any other resources that you think would be useful, for parents who might be feeling overwhelmed or they just don't know where to start with this?
Yeah, absolutely. Organizations like the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
NCMEC.
Yes, NCMEC, they have a wealth of information on their website, including tips for parents, for educators, even for teens themselves. And they also have a cyber tip line where you can report any suspicious activity.
I think that's a really important thing for people to remember. That even though it might feel embarrassing or scary to report these things, doing so could really prevent someone else from becoming a victim.
Absolutely.
And I think this case in South Carolina really just drives home, how devastating these consequences of sextortion can be.
Yeah.
But it also just kind of brings to light, I think, a larger issue of online safety.
For sure.
For everyone, but especially for young people.
This is just another tragic reminder that we all need to be vigilant, both for ourselves and for the people we care about.
Yeah, it's a shared responsibility. Well, as we wrap up here, I think it's worth asking ourselves, what can we each do? What steps can we take to make our own online experience and the online experiences of the people we love safer?
Yeah.
Knowledge is power. Open communication is key.
Right.
And let's not let these crimes happen in silence.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me.